I love the tweet about how it would make more sense for John Galt to take over the government rather than just concede it and go to some other country.
So Atlas Shrugged, which, by the way, so Atlas Shrugged is this incredible. So Atlas Shrugged, to start with, I actually didn't read Atlas Shrugged until like 4 years ago. It was weird. When I was a kid, this is the truth. When I was a kid, I read The Fountainhead, and I was like, all right, it didn't resonate with me at all because it's all about like artistic integrity and like Howard Roark gets like basically pissy over artistic compromises and like burns down his own buildings or tears down his own buildings. And I'm like, well, that's absurd. Like, no, that's not. So it didn't resonate. And then I always heard about Atlas Shrugged. I never read it. And then my friends kept telling me, no, you need to read it because we're literally living it right now. I was like, all right, fine. And so I started the audiobook, and I literally would just sit for hours and it's just like, it's so incredibly vivid, the story that it tells. And now I understand the negative reaction that it gets, right? Which is it is just absolutely unabashedly pro. To start with, it's pro-America, right? Which is, of course, enough to get it critically condemned forever. But it's unabashedly pro-capitalism. It's pro-enterprise. It's pro-industrialism. It's pro-energy. It's pro-building things. It's pro-merit. It's pro-trade. It's pro all the things that the modern academy literary establishment is against. And it's just an incredible painting of that. And then the other thing is just like utterly shocking is the degree to which the villains are all real.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure you've done this. Like you can just go down the Wikipedia entry of like the villains and you're like, oh yeah, I know that. I know Ellsworth. I know Ellsworth Toohey. And by the way, I know Ellsworth Toohey also.
Yes,
we don't have to say who it is, but we both have the same name in our heads.
Exactly.
And so I know these people. And then the two most amazing, the sort of equipoise of the whole thing, the two characters ultimately, one is John Galt, who's for people who haven't read, he's the great industrial genius who basically essentially goes on strike. He goes on strike. He literally goes on strike and creates a whole separate, I'm going to spoil it. He creates this whole separate, world isolated out from the rest of the world called Galt's Gulch. And he sort of takes all the world's geniuses and pulls them out of society. And then, so that's one character. But the other character is, do you remember this, Eric? The other character is the character of the United States president.
Mm-hmm.
And the character of the United States president, I might get the name wrong, it was a deliberately vague name, but it's like Mr. Johnson.
Yeah.
And the thing with the character of Mr. Johnson is because all of the characters in that novel are like incredibly vividly drawn, all the good ones and all the bad ones. Like they have these incredible personalities. They're larger than life. They're like these superhero like figures. The one exception is the president of the United States is Mr. Johnson, who's deliberately painted basically as a non-entity. Like he barely even exists. And like, he's basically just a figurehead of this just like totally screwed up system, this government that's completely out of control, that's like crushing private enterprise, just, trying to impose socialism, doing all the worst things it could possibly do. But the guy in charge is like the exact opposite of like a Lex Luthor. He's just like a complete nobody, completely interchangeable. And anybody else could be in that job. Mr. Smith could be in that job. It wouldn't matter at all. And every time he's in the novel, it's like he's not even a character. He's just like this complete zero. Right now, I don't know, just like hypothetically, this would never happen, of course, in our world for real, but just hypothetically imagine that someday we had a president where literally it's like he doesn't even exist. Like, is he awake? Is he asleep? Is he alive? Is he wandering around the West Wing in his bunny slippers? Like, who knows? Now, that would never happen in real life.
No, of course not.
No, but if it ever did, it would be this character in this novel, right? And so, like, her novels are so unrealistic, right? That would never happen.
Exactly.
And so, can't even finish a sentence. And everybody just lies about it.
Oh, my God.
So anyway, both of those characters, like, maybe those characters, like, okay, but like, that's not like the president character might be real, but like the actual John Galt would not do what John Galt did. The actual John Galt would do what Elon's doing, right? The exact opposite of the John Galt plan. And I'm going to spoil the novel, like in the end of the novel, I'm going to spoil it. And it's actually very poignant, which is basically all the geniuses basically just go to Galt's Gulch and they basically go into seclusion and they basically wait for industrial civilization to collapse and for the rotten system that rules it to basically cave in under the theory that then they'll be able to like come back out and sort of fix it properly and basically prove to the normal man that he actually needs, these sort of industrial super geniuses. And so it ends very poignantly with like literally the lights going out, right? Like literally the lights of New York, like to start to blink out, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's like, okay, like you could say like, that's like really unrealistic, of course, except that's like literally what's happening in Europe.
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
the prices of energy and your price of energy, what is it price of energy in Scandinavia is like up like 20x this week.
Wow.
It's like you get these crazy things. And then the price of energy is so high in the UK and in Germany now that they're both literally Germany is deindustrializing, right? The price of energy in Germany is so high that literally they're literally shutting down the factories, right? And if this keeps going, if the trends continue, they will end up in rolling blackouts. And by the way, California, we have our version of that. We've been through phases where we have our own rolling blackouts, which is remarkable. But it's like, okay, that's one option if you're John Galt. But the other option is no, you just go do what needs to be done. And there's actually a character in Atlas Shrugged that actually does that or tries to do that, which is the Dagny Taggart character. And in the end, she's ultimately convinced by John Galt that she should actually also give up. But Elon's like the John Galt character that decided the opposite of giving up. He just decided to take on the bigger challenge to make sure the problem gets fixed. And I don't know. It's like the old line used to be like the thing with Ayn Rand's novels is the heroes are fake, but the villains are real. And, that might be wrong. Like we might actually every once in a while get a Randian hero.